tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Hello, everyone out there in Tampa Bay and beyond. This is James Knowles coming at you for RBLR Sports. We usually do the Rowdies podcast, but we were not able to record on Monday because, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, we do not have a Rowdies game to cover, but we do have a World Cup to preview. So tonight I've got a packed house. I've got my usual co-host, Carlos Rueda. I've got my old co-host, Leo Santos, and I've got Mr. Baseball for RBLR, Ben Whitelaw. Everybody, don't chime in all at once, but tell me how you're doing when you get the chance.
Yeah, I'll start, James. I'm doing great. I'm here back home, taking a break from class to talk about the World Cup. I'm excited. I mean, we got a lot to talk about, obviously. I know, like, in our notes that we have here, I'm listed as, like, the Ecuador guy, but I do want to put it out there that I'm also obviously rooting for the U.S. as the country I was born in. So I'm rocking with both those teams. It's going to be a really fun World Cup, and I'm just excited to talk about it.
Yeah, I'll go next. I'm James. You know, I miss talking about the Rowdies with you. I miss talking shit about the Rowdies with you. You know, we used to do that stuff all the time, but I think Carlos has been doing a great job, and you too, James. But I'm excited. I'm doing good, man. I have so much to say about Mexico, and just like Carlos said, I was also born in the U.S. and I know Mexico and USA tend to have a rivalry together. But in the World Cup, I do like to see CONCACAF teams make it far. So, you know, I hope for the best for this U.S. team.
Hi, I'm Ben. Obviously, I do the baseball stuff, but soccer is my first love, and I like it more than baseball, honestly. It's just it's amazing, and I'm so excited for the World Cup. Almost no expectations. I don't know if I'm in a minority by saying that, but it's just so exciting because we really have no idea what we're going to get. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, I am kind of in the same boat as you, Ben, and I feel also like Leo that, you know, I like seeing CONCACAF do well overall. When Costa Rica went on that run in 2014, I tell you, I was cheering them the whole way, but that's old stuff. Yeah, that's true. That's old stuff. We gotta cover some stuff that's coming up here because it starts on Sunday. So as I said, the Rowdies did not play this past weekend. The only USL game was the championship final. So we obviously do not want to cover that other than saying congratulations to San Antonio, who did beat Louisville City. We'll cover that just a tiny bit more towards the end of this podcast. But instead, today we'll be doing this preview. The World Cup starts on Sunday, and Qatar or Qatar, depending on how you want to say it, they host Ecuador at 11 a.m., and then USA plays Monday and Mexico plays Tuesday. So there's a lot to go over. To be prepared, we want to give you listeners everything that we can here. So we are going to go over the groups. We're going to go over an overview of the World Cup because there's more than just the soccer to talk about, unfortunately, I would say. And then we're going to do some individual team previews to leave it on a high note here because I think that that's the best way to get us excited. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Carlos. If you could get us through a World Cup groups list, then we can get into the next part, which might be a little less savory.
For sure. Yeah. So like you said, Group A kicks off with Qatar as the host country, Ecuador, Netherlands, and Senegal making up the four in that group. Group B is England, Iran, the U.S., and Wales. Group C, you have Argentina, Mexico, Poland, and Saudi Arabia. Group D makes up of Australia, Denmark, France, and Tunisia. Group E, Costa Rica, Germany, Japan, and Spain. Group F, Belgium, Canada, Croatia, Morocco. Group G, Brazil, Cameroon, Serbia, and Switzerland. And finally, Group H is made up of Ghana, Portugal, South Korea, and Uruguay. Lots of really, really fun groups in there, I think. Sorry about the dog in the background there, if you can hear that. Lots of really fun groups in there. I think there's going to be a lot of fun matchups coming up, honestly, James. And I'm really excited to talk about this here more in a little bit. Obviously, you know, the big game that sticks out to me for me is Ecuador and Qatar as the opening game. Cannot be more excited about that. But there's so many fun matchups. I mean, you take a look at Group B and you have USA, England. Of course, going to be a fun one. And Group C, Mexico, which obviously Leo's going to talk about a little more later on. But Mexico and Argentina is going to be a fantastic matchup. Just so many good games coming up. And I think there's a lot of room for upsets and for big teams to maybe not make it out of the group stage as easy as they'd like.
Yeah, I think that that's important to point out. And like you said, there's going to be a lot of really great games on display for us here. And unfortunately, though, like I said, we do have something else to go over before we get into our individual team previews here. There are some problems with this World Cup, and I don't want to gloss over them, but I do want to get through them a little bit quickly, just because there are quite a few. And we have all of these guests on, Carlos, so we gotta make sure that Leo and Ben get a chance to talk as well. So I'll just run through them here really quickly. This is what I could find online in the past, I don't know, maybe several months, I guess, reading through everything. But apparently, when a World Cup is awarded to a country, the host country is effectively bound by FIFA, by this agreement, that they will approve a FIFA Bill of Rights, which is effectively a lack of Bill of Rights for people who are in the host country. So, workers are not allowed to protest a certain amount of time close to the tournament. They're not allowed to protest close to the tournament, those kinds of things. So I didn't actually know that until this tournament came up, when I learned about it for the Brazilian World Cup, where a lot of workers were also mistreated. And, there were minimal chances to protest, and they obviously tried to cover everything up. And, I didn't even realize that was part of it, but apparently it is. So that's a FIFA problem, and not one that they were letting people know about really ever, as far as they could. Another issue, this goes back to the host country itself. LGBTQ plus rights is obviously a big talking point when it comes to the World Cup. Now, this is a majority Muslim country, and the right to be a gay person is effectively forbidden. There are laws not only against being in a relationship or having relations with someone of the same sex, but it's also a problem to just kind of exist that way. There is a lot of possibilities for persecution. So that is something that has possibly affected people who are not only working on the World Cup and the infrastructure, all of that stuff, but also potentially guests coming to the country. And there have been a lot of controversies about people saying, like, can I go here? Am I going to be safe? And I don't know, safety seems like a number one issue when you should be awarding host rights for a World Cup. But, maybe that's just me. I don't know. FIFA doesn't seem to care as long as they can get some money. The next problem that I wanted to bring up is the kafala worker system. So Qatar is a pretty small country. It's roughly 3 million people, and its population is mostly guest workers. I found actually that 90% of Qatar's population is guest workers. With that being the case, all of these people are here to build the infrastructure for Qatar, not just the World Cup. This is actually a system that predates all of the World Cup infrastructure being built, but it is a huge problem because there are a lot of issues with it. I just wanted to read this quick report, or this quick line from a report, I should say, that ESPN put out. Reports showed that low-income migrant workers, mostly from Nepal, India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, fight to receive their wages, work in extreme weather conditions, and lack proper centers to report abuses and complaints where they can make sure their rights are not being violated. And this has led to more than just those problems that I read through right there. It is also close to, several thousands of deaths at this point have been attributed to the process of building all the stadiums that we are going to see all this soccer played in. So this is something that is, again, it's literally a tragedy, and there are families who are never going to see their loved ones again, of course. But everyone is excited for the World Cup, myself included. I just wanted to put out there that this is something that everybody needs to be conscious of. And if you have a specific national team that you support, maybe in some small way you can tell them, hey, I would like you to support or force Qatar to support the workers that helped build up this wonderful event that you're being able to host on their backs effectively. There is talk of putting together a reimbursement fund for people who suffered or died at the hands of the bosses effectively in this system, the kafala system. And Qatar and FIFA do not want to implement that, but if they have enough pressure, then obviously they won't be able to resist it. So as just your casual fan, do what you can. There's probably not a ton that you can do unless you storm the gates of the USSF in Chicago for us, but I'm not planning on doing that, I guess. And I would just like to make sure that if the USSF is listening at any point that I can do so, I will tell them that I want you to support this reimbursement fund at the very least. The last things that I wanted to go over are the infrastructure itself. A lot of fans have gone to Qatar so far and have found their infrastructure to be lacking. Let's say there's a fan zone for people to go and not only hang out in, but effectively live in for the next 2 weeks. And it is a lot of shipping containers we have found online. A lot of people have said that it is similar in look to the Fire Festival of Netflix documentary fame. So keep that in mind as well, especially if you're going. Someone on this podcast might be listening to that part a little bit more than the rest. And the last thing for this tournament that I wanted to bring up as, a major sticking point, and this is not anywhere near the, the problem of people losing their lives or anything like that, but this tournament is usually obviously a summer tournament, but it could not be hosted in the summer in Qatar because it's so hot there, and that is why it's being hosted in November. Originally, this tournament was given to Qatar on the chances that they were going to build stadiums that could survive the heat and, effectively air condition their players. They were going to be built up such that they could be taken apart and shipped elsewhere, and sent to a lot of them were supposed to be sent to Africa to be rebuilt up there. And I don't think that any of those plans are actually real. I think that it was just something they put in their bid so that FIFA could say, hey, we're probably going to get all this right. It's going to be fine. And then obviously several years down the line, we find ourselves in November in the middle of every major European club season, and all of these players, many of whom are missing because of injuries, now also have to go and think about a World Cup. So those are all the things that are wrong. Is there a chance for all of these reforms instituted for the World Cup to be hosted here? Is there a chance that all these reforms actually stick? I don't know. We'll probably get back to that a little bit later as we get forward, but those are all things that I want people to be conscientious of, because it is a problem that this is being hosted here, and it is FIFA itself is a huge problem. Obviously, I got into soccer. I don't know about you guys, and we'll turn it over to you in a bit, but I got into soccer as someone who first fell in love through the 2006 World Cup. I grew up playing all before then, but I didn't really actually like the sport. Now, obviously, I watch it all the time, and that was mainly due to the World Cup. I think it brings people together, but the fact that FIFA is the organization that hosts it really is a sticking point for me, because they're so corrupt and evil. But God help me, I do love the product that they put out there. So with all of that unsavory business out of the way, I think I'm going to turn it over now to Carlos to do Ecuador, and then Ben and I will do USA before we turn it over to Leo to do Mexico, all in order of the groups that they're in. So Carlos, away to you.
For sure. And I think it's a fantastic thing that we do point out everything you've mentioned. It is incredibly vital to have that in our minds, like going into the World Cup, making sure that context is understood. It's super important, and honestly, we could talk about that for hours and hours and still wouldn't be doing justice to how complex those topics are. But yeah, for the sake of time, like you said, I'll move on and briefly give a preview about what my Ecuador squad is looking like this World Cup, going in and opening the World Cup against the hosts, Qatar, and what will surely be an exciting game. So just to start it off, there's some key important players that make up the Ecuadorian national team. The most veteran player on the team is the striker, Ener Valencia. He's a true veteran of the game. He's now 30, in his mid-30s. He currently plays for Fenerbahce in Turkey, and has had his spells in the Premier League with teams like West Ham as well. Very, very talented striker who's been struggling to find his form in recent games, but who had a really good qualifying. So excited to see him play. He's complemented by really key additions this World Cup in Gonzalo Plata and Moises Caicedo, two players who are having fantastic and rapid success in their young careers. They're really, really promising young attacking stars. Gonzalo Plata plays on the wing, just an incredible dribbler, one of those players that you just love to see playing. Really, really like knocks your socks off with his raw skill. Moises Caicedo is a true center midfielder, kind of controls the game, with his subtle dominance, I guess. That was a good way to put it. He plays for Brighton and Hove Albion currently, and he's only 20 years old, by the way. Let me just point out, like, Ecuador, with the exception of the U.S., who has a slightly younger average age, Ecuador's average age for their squad is 25. Really, really young team, and a lot of these like raw, talented players. are about my age, which makes me feel like a huge failure, guys. I don't know if anybody else has that same feeling. But
Oh yeah,
with that
definitely.
being said, yeah.
Don't worry, it only gets worse as you age.
Yeah. So, and then one more key player I'll highlight before I move on is Piero Hincapié. Piero currently plays for Bayer Leverkusen in the Premier League. Again, 20-year-old, huge center back who just does a fantastic job of controlling the back line despite his young age. He'll be complemented by a really good group of defenders who are all older than him, but who all know who the captain of the back line is. So he'll be a huge piece in controlling the defense. Not a ton of players missing out through injury. The only one that's notable is a player, Joao Rojas, who currently plays in Ecuador, who was kind of on the bubble for getting called up anyway. So thankfully, despite the weird scheduling of the World Cup, Ecuador has been saved of injuries. The only other key player maybe that might be missing is the right back, Byron Castillo. He currently plays in the Mexican League, but he's been kind of the center of some controversy throughout the past, I don't know, year at this point, for potentially having false documents about where he was born. Allegedly, he was born in Colombia. These things are so like convoluted and complicated that it didn't really amount to anything. But I think for the sake of safety, the team erred on the side of safety and left him out of the squad. Although he is traveling with the team, he'll be in Qatar. He just won't be playing, which is very unfortunate for him. Looking ahead at the opponents in the group stage, we have, like I said earlier, you have the Netherlands, who are kind of the favorites to win the group, the host country Qatar and Senegal. Qatar is likely, on paper, the game that is easiest to win, quote unquote. I put easiest, up against a lot of factors, up against the home crowd, up against the home atmosphere, whatever that is in Qatar, up against the history that the home country has never lost the opening game. So it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out. Senegal, very talented squad. But Leo and I were talking about this before we started recording. Huge factor in Sadio Mane being out of the World Cup due to injury. So this is one of the countries that took a huge hit because of the weird scheduling of the World Cup here. Unfortunately, Mane is out of the World Cup, and that will be, frankly, hugely beneficial to the rest of the teams in the group. And then the favorites to win the group, Netherlands, I think it goes without saying. They have a hugely talented squad. Despite, some of the players of their golden era, you could say, kind of aging out at this point, generally retired or not in the squad. It has a really talented deep squad that I think justifiably is the favorite to win the group. A couple more talking points, I'd say. A tweet came out earlier today, actually, from a reporter in England whose name I'm totally forgetting. Allegedly, there were reports that some Qatari officials had approached several Ecuadorian players, offering bribes of up to $7 million each to forfeit or to intentionally lose that first game. So again, given everything that James mentioned earlier, I do not think that that's out of the realm of possibility. But I guess it's just something we have to hope does not affect the result on the field.
Well, I think FIFA might try to hire them after that. It seems like they would fit right in.
Yeah,
no kidding.
Yeah, no, it's a very strange situation for sure, and I think it's one of those things that, as a fan and as general fans of the game, you just have to hope doesn't happen, because what are you going to do about it? I mean, that kind of thing is just out of our control entirely. So once that came out, fans on Twitter have been just constantly bombarding the Ecuadorian national team Twitter page. I think it's good that this was brought to light before the tournament. I think that gives the players a huge kind of, there's a word that's like the opposite of incentive, and I'm forgetting what that word is. But the fact that that's out there, I think there's a huge cloud of potential shame of what could happen if it comes out there.
Can you imagine if Qatar wins that game? Like
Yeah.
all the stuff that's gonna be said, and it's just gonna erupt.
No.
Yeah. It's good. It's good that they brought it up before, but then again, it's like if Qatar wins, you're gonna have a bunch of analysts, people on Twitter, like
Just not believe
scrutinizing.
it's
Yeah,
legitimate.
Right.
scrutinizing Ecuador's play. Like, were these players even really trying? Were they in it for the money? Like,
Yeah.
it's just a huge mess, man.
It's going to be fascinating to see, honestly. Like, and again, I personally just hope that, given especially that we haven't been in this tournament since 2014, it's only the fourth time this national team has qualified to the World Cup. You just have to hope that there's a sense of pride in these young guys, knowing that they're representing 17 million Ecuadorians, to go out there and just play their game. Honestly, like it sucks to see, but again, like you guys mentioned, it's definitely not something I would put past the host of the World Cup. One more thing to mention, talking points wise, one of the strikers that got called up, Kevin Rodriguez. There's no reason any of you should know that name, or anyone else listening to this podcast. Kevin Rodriguez is a really young forward who plays for a second division side in Ecuador, Imbabura Sporting Club. He got the surprise call after randomly impressing in a friendly versus Iraq literally last week. And when asked about why he got called up, the coach gave kind of like a 5-minute monologue that went semi-viral in Latin American circles of Twitter. Really just kind of talking about his humility, how hardworking he was, how much raw talent he has. And he made the point of saying that if I didn't tell you who this kid was, would you have even known that he was of like a second division team, because he went out there and played better than most of the guys on the field.
How old is he, Carlos?
So I think he's 21 years old. Just he's not necessarily like super young or anything. There's nothing like no crazy storylines about him other than the
That's
fact
like
that he made
Jake
it on.
LaCava making the U.S. national team.
Exactly, right. So and this is an Ecuador side that now has players playing all over the world. Most of the team used to be from within the Ecuadorian league, which is a good league to its credit, and it's getting so much better now. But we've created, and I say we, I'm I'm not taking any credit for this. Sorry. The infrastructure in the Ecuadorian soccer world has created a ton of great players that have been outsourced to Europe, to Mexico, to the U.S., and then randomly, this kid Kevin Rodriguez makes the team from a second division side in Ecuador. And I will say, in the sort of U.S. Open Cup of Ecuador, he made a really, really impressive run with his team that knocked out my own team back in Ecuador. So I had heard about this kid. He had murdered my team. And it is actually really, really cool to see him making the national team. He's just a total X factor that can come in, and there's no film on him. Like, what are you going to do? You can't find film on this guy because it's a random team in second.
That's such a
Cheat
good point.
Yeah. But from the little bit I have seen, huge talent. And I think he could cause some chaos for, teams like the Netherlands, who might only be scouting out Enter Valencia. Okay, so I'm ranting. I'm on a tangent here for the sake of giving you guys time to speak before I totally take over this podcast talking about Ecuador. I'll wrap up my thoughts here and say that really there's no reason that this squad can't make a memorable run. The talent runs like really, really deep in this squad. Like I said, they have players playing all over the world. 3 of our guys, funnily enough, all play for like Brighton and Hove Albion. It kind of became a meme that like all of Ecuador's talent goes to Brighton because it's like the best guys on the team all play for Brighton.
Don't they got Stupinian on that team too?
Exactly. Yeah, you have
Right,
Pervis
yeah.
Stupinian, Moises Caicedo, and a really, really young guy in Jeremy Sarmiento, who's going to be an incredible talent in a couple of years. Like, really keep your eyes on that name, on Jeremy Sarmiento. Really, really awesome kid. I mean, truly, there's a ton of talent, and it's complemented by a mix of veterans as well, like Enter Valencia at the front, and 2 veteran goalies that make up kind of the 2 guys in competition for the starting spot. One of them just came off winning the league in Ecuador, making a huge penalty save. So he's in fantastic form, and he's really feeling himself right now. Hernan Galindez will be a huge asset in the back. That being said, the team has struggled to create goals in their recent friendlies. In their last 6 games, they've won 2 of them by a score of 1-0. The other 4 games, guys, were 0-0 draws. So that's 2 goals in the last 6 games, but no losses either. So the defense is looking incredibly promising. They look really, really good, headed by Piero Hincapié, this young kid, complemented by really, really talented guys on the fullback position, and Felix Torres and Arboleda, who play in Mexico and Brazil, respectively. Really, really talented back line. If the attack can get something going during the World Cup, I mean, it's only 3 games in the group stage. If you can get something going during those games, there's really no reason that we won't have a chance against just about anybody in the World Cup. So I'm going to wrap it up there. I think we're going to have a really good chance to make a good run. And I'll stop before I keep rambling. Throw it over to you guys.
Yeah, I think that Ecuador are going to have, like you said, a good chance, but it seems like possibly one of their issues is one of the issues that every team has, other than maybe France, and that they don't have some top scorer that they can turn to all the time. I know that we
Right.
have similar issues, and possibly Mexico as well.
Oh, definitely.
All right. Well, with that, we are going to move on to the USA preview, and I will turn it over to Ben to go through that, and then we'll try and figure out what our outlooks are, Ben, and see if we have anything close to a consensus on that.
Yeah, sounds good. So some of the important players in the squad, obviously Captain America, Christian Pulisic. Like, you can't talk about United States men's soccer without talking
The
about him.
LeBron James of soccer.
He is the LeBron James of soccer, allegedly.
No. Oh, no.
Yeah, he's exciting. He's electric. Not super favored in his Chelsea squad, but it's fine. He's great. He's fantastic. Tyler Adams, just such a I don't want to say he's like a destroyer, but he's like such a cerebral player that like he destroys other players with his technical ability and his ability to read the game. He's fantastic. We got Yunus Musa, just a young train. He will just carry the ball 30, 40 yards at a time, dribble around anyone. He's press resistant. Love having him in the midfield. Gio Reyna, he's like United States soccer royalty. Claudio Reyna is his dad. This whole team is just so exciting. We got Tim Weah, his dad's the president of Liberia or whatever. Matt Turner, former college, he went the college route, which is super uncommon. Tim Ream went the college route, and they all became really successful. This team is this is the most exciting group of players I think we've had in a very, very long time. And they're not even at their full potential yet. They're so young. Young players are usually really bad and inconsistent. And we've seen that with the United States in some of their qualifying matches and in friendlies, but friendlies don't really matter that much. So take that with a grain of salt. But yeah, I'm so excited about this team. So yeah, James, what are you thinking about the roster selection, I guess?
Yeah, I'm gonna break some ground here by saying I've got problems with the roster. I'm sure I'm the only person on the internet who has ever said that.
Yeah,
but,
that would be correct.
Yeah. I will go through and say there are players missing through injury. So Miles Robinson and Chris Richards were number 1 and number 2 probably on our center back depth chart. So that's not great, but there are also players who are missing for other reasons. And those include John Brooks, who started out getting called up for the qualification round. And then he ended up being, I don't know, a team pariah, maybe. Is that the right word? Jordan Pefok is another player who has been involved, and he's been scoring quite a bit recently, but he did not make the team because it doesn't seem like Greg Berhalter really wants a player. Actually, that's not true. Greg Berhalter does want a player of his mold, but he took a different guy. And Ricardo Pepi was someone who was heavily involved in the qualification, and he was heavily involved after qualification. And he just recently started lighting up the Dutch league, but he was still left home for some reason. So Ben, I don't know how you feel about the strikers here. That's probably where people are most divided, is the strikers. And, he ended up going with 3. I think a lot of people expected him to choose 3. But Greg Berhalter chose Josh Sargent, Jesus Ferreira, and Haji Wright up top. Now, I think that Jesus Ferreira was always going to make it, and whether or not you like him, he was going to be there, so it doesn't really matter. Josh Sargent, I think, deserved it, not only because he plays the way that Greg Berhalter usually wants a forward to play, but he's also been scoring a lot. And I kind of expected Ricardo Pepi to play his way back into this team, but it turns out that he went with someone who is of the mold of a big body up top who can, kind of push the envelope, so to speak, as the guy who will just be direct. He's not going to try to do anything fancy. He's not going to try to do a lot of build up necessarily. He's just going to try to get on the end of the ball. And Haji Wright is that player. He has scored 9 goals, I believe, this season for Antalyaspor in Turkey. Not the club Union Berlin, which is leading the Bundesliga, where Jordan Pefok plays. But again, this is not my decision. So how do you feel about these ones? I think that my biggest problem with the roster is probably Jordan Morris, but there's definitely controversy up top too.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely some decisions like at the margins of the roster that I don't think ultimately will be too impactful. Like you got Ferreira and Sargent, who are pretty much like your 1A, 1B strikers. I don't really know how much like Pefok would have even seen the field, but his form, he scored 1 goal since August 27th in league play. So I'm cool with leaving him off in favor. I think it came down to him and Haji. I think that was like the decision for Berhalter. I'm a little surprised about Pepi. I would have loved to see like another dual national on the team, which, by the way, Greg Berhalter, just as a side note, has done a fantastic job
Absolutely
in recruiting during his coaching tenure. So love that. But yeah, I mean, the some of the roster decisions are, a little questionable. You mentioned Jordan Morris. He's someone that's like, he's maybe the 4th or 5th winger off the bench. So like even he probably won't see the field. Like really like your top 16, maybe 18 guys are going to be the ones that, play the most. Center back, I know you mentioned that a little earlier on. It sucks because Miles Robinson is like the best ball playing center back in the national team pool, and he's unavailable.
Exactly.
Walker Zimmerman's been fantastic. He's really just come out of nowhere to take charge. So I'm happy about that. But now you're, stuck between Aaron Long, Tim Ream, Cameron Carter-Vickers at that second center back spot. So it's going to be a fun ride, to put it nicely. But yeah, I mean, I'm just so excited to be in a World Cup again. It sucked missing out, but I think the organization as a whole learned a lot on missing out, and they really tore everything down, started over, and they're building something really special, and they're not done yet. So I don't know if we're going to see that, special play and the special talent really come to fruition a lot this time, because they're all so young. And like I said before, young players don't usually perform that well, but we're going to have a shot. So I'm excited.
Fellas, if I may give in my 2 cents really quick about the men's national team. That whole situation with Haji Wright and Jordan Pefok, that made no sense to me because, no offense to Haji Wright, credit to him for banging in all those goals, but at the same time, Jordan Pefok was doing the same thing in the Swiss league, and I feel like the Swiss league and the Turkish league are like on the same levels. And there's a reason why Jordan Pefok made that jump to Germany, because he wants to compete at a higher level week in and week out. So to leave someone, like I know he hasn't scored, like what Ben said, he hasn't scored since like a couple or a few months ago. But the fact that he's playing against, the Bayern Munichs, the Borussia Dortmunds, the Bayer Leverkusens week in and week out, like that's something, like even if you don't play him, that's someone you have to have on your team because he has that caliber in case you need that big body goal threat like they have with Haji Wright, right? You could have had that with Jordan Pefok. If you need a last minute goal, you have someone who has that experience because he has gone up against defenders with, Lucas Hernandez, Sule from Borussia Dortmund. So that right there, I kind of disagree with. I think, it was a little unfair to leave out Jordan Pefok, but, I hope Haji Wright does well with if he's given an opportunity to play. And in regards to the goalkeeping situation, I kind of feel bad for Zach Steffen because he was the guy, even when he wasn't playing with Man City, he was never going to take over Ederson's role. But even when he wasn't playing, he was Greg Berhalter's guy in the big games and qualifying and stuff like that. And just to leave him out, I feel like that must have been a really tough conversation between Greg and Zach. So I feel bad for Zach Steffen. I think he should have been on that list, even if he would have been backup. I feel like he still deserved to go to that World Cup. And same thing with Ricardo Pepi. I know he didn't do good at Augsburg, but once he made that move to Netherlands on loan, he's been doing really good, banging in goals, giving assists left and right. And I just felt like he was hard done as well because I've seen this everywhere on Twitter. This guy saved Berhalter's job throughout qualifying. So, but at the end of the day, making a World Cup roster, people are always going to look at who was left out more than who made the list. So, it goes for every single squad. But if I was Greg Berhalter, I would have put in Jordan Peacock, find a room for Ricardo Pepi, and squeeze in Zach Steffen as well.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, at least on Jordan Peacock. I think that Ricardo Pepi was probably on the cusp. And this is me as someone who, and I understand this. I have nowhere near the coaching or playing acumen. I certainly want to say that of Greg Berhalter or probably any coach that's going to be at this World Cup. Obviously, that's true. But personally, I would have tried to fit in Pepi and Peacock. And in my personal opinion, I would have left Jordan Morris because I don't think that Jordan Morris is playing up to the level that they need him at right now. And, a lot of people will say that that's a Euro bias over an MLS bias. And I will go ahead and admit that I have a European bias for, where American players should be based. But as a quick example, Jordan Morris, when he was playing at Swansea City, I wasn't just, I didn't want him to play with the national team then because he was playing at Swansea City, but it was that he had earned that move to Swansea City with his play in MLS. He was playing so well that he was the guy for the national team and ultimately tried to move to Swansea City where he unfortunately got injured. Right now, though, what I would say about Jordan Morris is that he just hasn't had the form this season. And, you look at the Seattle Sounders, he's not the best guy on that team and they didn't even make the playoffs. So that would be my only qualm. But, it's out of our hands, obviously. And this is what I want to say that I think goes more towards Ben's point a little bit. There's a lot of people trash talking online, especially certain MLS players. One of those will be Jordan Morris. Another is Christian Roldan, Jesus Ferreira. These players are getting a lot of shtick online that I think is really kind of bullshit. If you are, you are not the coach and you are free to criticize the coach for saying, I don't think that you should pick this player. The coach is the figurehead and he's kind of there to take the brunt of all of the fans' hate. And Greg Berhalter certainly does do that. But the one thing that I will say is that these players are all playing in the thing that they have dreamed of playing in for their entire lives. Since they were children, they have dreamed of playing in a World Cup. I think all of us have, played soccer to a certain degree, and we have all kind of imagined ourselves playing in a World Cup, even if it was, something that was really far out of our hands, speaking for me at least. But, do not criticize a player in this position who has made the team. It's not his fault he's on the team, so to speak. He's obviously playing as best he can to make that team. It's not his fault he was selected. The selector is the coach. And if you're going after the players when they have made the team, and Eureka, you can bleep this if you need, but that is fucking bullshit. That is absolute bullshit, because these guys, like I said, are playing in the thing that they have wanted to do since they were children. And beyond that, you have to support your team. Support your fucking team. Like, it's insane that there are people who are, getting in the mentions for Jordan Morris and Jesus Ferreira and telling them they don't deserve to be there. There are messages like DMs telling them that they don't deserve to be there. What are you doing? Support your team. Again, if you really need to yell at somebody, call the coach out, and that's fine. And you can, yell into the ether on Twitter. Lord knows I like doing that too. But to try to tell the players that they're shit and they don't belong, I'll tell you what, nobody ever got over their bad form by hearing all of their fans boo them. That has never happened in the history of sport.
Yeah, I think Eureka might want to bleep a little bit there. But yeah, it was tasteful. I liked it. Good stuff. Nice.
Yeah,
so I'm assuming
I felt I needed to get that out.
Yeah. So I'm assuming you have some pretty high expectations then for this group, based on how you feel about the roster selection and the passion here.
Well, I don't know. Let's do the opponents real quickly, and then we'll get into the outlook. So our opponents are England, the most favored team, and then there are two very defensively sound teams in Iran and Wales. Iran is coached by perennial World Cup coach Carlos Queiroz, formerly of Manchester United, and Wales have the infamous Gareth Bale, who just won or helped LAFC win an MLS Cup. So those are big talking points, obviously, and then there are the two other talking points with McKennie and De La Torre being partly injured. We don't know exactly how much they'll be able to play. And then there's all the talking points that we have done about, roster selection, but that's what you can do with every team. So Ben, with outlook, I got to say for this team, I want them to do well. Naturally, I do have a lot of passion for the U.S. men's national team. I've already said how I got into the sport. It was the 2006 World Cup where the U.S. actually didn't do that well, and that part sucked. But we have had a lot of misfiring when it comes to this team, especially on the attacking side, and then we have a lot of problems with this team attacking teams that are sat back and kind of defending and then waiting to counter. So truly, I have very little idea. England are playing, very well, but some of the most boring soccer that English fans have probably ever seen them play. Are we going to be able to break through them defensively too? I think that this group and our ability to move on to the round of 16 is going to hinge a lot on mistakes rather than our ability to break teams down with our strategy and our individual play. It could really come down to a 1-goal game versus Wales and Iran. And who wins each of those games, I can't tell you right now. It's going to play game to game because I just don't know. How do you feel?
I feel excited. Like, I think we're really going to finally see like the United States able to play the style that we've seen flashes of against a lot of these teams that sit in a low block, because England is going to come out and they're going to try to punch you in the mouth. They're not going to sit back too much. I know they do play a little bit more boring than in the past, but they're definitely like, they know they're a quality team. They are a quality team for sure, but they are going to try to press. And I'm excited for the U.S. in that situation because they've shown they can really pass out of the back. They can play a little bit of possession. They can work it down the wings with like Dest and Pulisic working on the same side, Anthony Robinson. And, they've got so much talent that I really think they're going to be able to play around like England and even Wales. I know Wales does like to counter. Iran might be a little difficult because they are a team that sits back and, they will play for a draw essentially, which is like what a lot of teams in CONCACAF end up doing against the United States and Mexico. But yeah, we're going to get to see some hopefully like free flowing soccer. Like I said before, again and again, the team is young. They're not going to be consistent. They're going to fall apart at times, but this is probably the most talented, like raw talented group we've had in a very, very long time. So yeah, I'm really excited. No idea what's going to happen. I think they're going to at least make it out of the group, but yeah, I can't wait to see, Tim Weah cook some Welsh guy down the wing and then bang one.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree with you that this is the most talented team overall. Like, we did not have, it doesn't matter which team you go back to. I think that 2002 was probably the best roster we've ever had up until now, but this is the best group of individual footballers that we've ever had. So yeah, I'm going to say again, my outlook, I don't know. But I will take what you said. I am very excited for it too. So yeah, with that, I think we have one more individual team preview to do before we get to our own predicts. These are not Rowdies predicts as we usually do, but there's a World Cup coming up. So let's do one more before we get into that. And Leo, it's all on you now.
Yeah, the moment everyone's been waiting for, right? This is probably like the most
let's go.
The most interesting team heading into the World Cup. But so yeah, I'll be covering the Mexican team, right? And let me just start by throwing the most important players that we have on this roster that was selected to go to Qatar. I'm beginning with Memo Ochoa, and I have him here as the World Cup god because if you know, this man is a combination of every greatest goalie to ever play ever in the sport of soccer. He's all of them combined whenever he plays in the World Cup. 2014. Those close-up shots he blocked from Brazilian players, from Croatian players, from Dutch players. He was phenomenal, and he just did the same thing in 2018, blocking anything that was coming at him from the Germans, anything that was coming at him from the Koreans, and, any team he went up against, you can put your money on that Ochoa was going to block that. So, he's a little older now. He is 36 or 37, somewhere around there. So this most likely will be his last World Cup and his last moment to really shine on the big stage. Another player we have here is Chucky Lozano, someone who in 2018, he was the man of the hour. He scored that memorable goal that will go down in Mexican soccer history forever against Germany when Mexico won 1-0. And, I feel like he's entering this tournament with a good form. He's playing with Napoli, who is one of the most exciting and one of the best teams in Europe right now. He starts games, he gets subbed in games, but he has been impactful. I think that's what matters most heading into World Cup. Edson Alvarez, who's a starter for Ajax, Raul Jimenez, he's someone who hasn't played within the last 2 or 3 months, but, he is a starting striker in the Premier League. He's always going to be important. And I have on here, some people may know him, some people may not, but I have him on here, Cesar Montes, who to me is the best center back that Mexico has right now. And I just feel like he has to be firing on all cylinders in Mexico wants to even stand a chance to make it out this group. I got to tell you guys, when I heard this news a few months ago, I just, I gave up on all hope initially of making out the group stage, because when Mexico announced that Tecatito Corona would miss out through an injury, that was a huge miss. This man is probably, I would say before that injury, he was Mexico's best player. Starting week in, week out for Sevilla. Once he left Porto, he just felt like he was enjoying his football once again. And just to see him, this was going to be his World Cup. In 2018, he had to wait because, we had Miguel Ayun, we had Carlos Vela, we had Chucky Lozano. He had to wait on the bench. But 2022 was supposed to be his time to show that, I've been around the Mexican team for quite some time already. This is my time to start. This is my time to show everyone what I got. Unfortunately, he's not going to be there. He wasn't included on the roster, for any last-minute hopefulness. Unfortunately, it didn't work through. So it's going to be a big miss for Mexico. Lots of big shoes to fill for whoever is going to start in that position. I'm thinking it's going to be Alexis Vega from Chivas. And some other key players are missing for other reasons. You have Carlos Vela and Chicharito. Both of these players, I think they're missing out on different reasons. Carlos Vela has, said that he's done with the national team. He doesn't want to be with the national team anymore. He feels like he's already played in 2 World Cups. He's already served his time. He feels that with him not getting involved, it opens the door for, future wingers, players who could begin, their legacy with the national team, which I agree to some extent, but I ain't gonna lie to you guys. It's annoying seeing him ball out with LAFC and knowing that this dude is not going to be with us in Qatar. This man is just dribbling over players for fun, scoring goals for fun. And it's like,
he's way too good for MLS.
He is. And the fact is just that I think it gets more Mexican fans a little bit more annoyed is that he had all this potential, he was probably the most talented Mexican player, of his generation. And it just didn't work out with the national team. And Chicharito, I just feel like Chicharito behind the scenes, he has something going on with Tata Martino where they didn't see eye to eye or something like that. So he had to miss out on this one, which is really sad because it kind of, Ben and James, I don't know if you guys can relate to this, but it kind of feels like when Landon Donovan was missed out on the 2014 World Cup roster.
I kind of felt the same way. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, because it was like his last one. It would have been his last one, but then Klinsmann left him off. I kind of feel that way here because Chicharito is Mexico's all-time top goal scorer. He's 34, but he was banging in goals for LA Galaxy. He's not the same player he was a year, 2, 3 years ago, but he is someone you can rely on to score goals. He still has that, that natural instinct of a number 9. He's just at the right time, at the right place. You can always rely on him still. And it was just really, really kind of sad for Mexican fans to know that he wouldn't be going to this World Cup, which would have been his last one, I'm pretty sure. And these other 2 players are more like snubs who were left off the rosters. And like I said earlier, every single fan's going to look at who was left off more than who made the team. And I felt like Santi Jimenez, I did not know what to say when I first read reports that he was not going to be on the team. This man is a joint top goal scorer of the Europa League, and he's not going to Qatar. Mexico does not have that luxury of, we have all these really good strikers. They cannot say that because it's not true, and Santi Jimenez, 21 years of age, really good striker right now, really good former Feyenoord. Thought that was saying that, people have to look beyond the goals, that he doesn't play much. It's like, okay, if you're going to say that, then why the hell are you bringing Funes Mori? You know, he's been injured like almost the entire season. Where do we got to look beyond those goals? But if we're doing that, well, he hasn't even scored any goals. So it's like, you know, make it make sense in a way. And this dude, Tata, when he first got to Mexico national team, I remember he was saying that he wants Mexican players to get out their comfort zone and go to Europe and stuff like that. Well, Tata Jimenez just did exactly what you said a couple years back, and now you're just contradicting yourself. So that's what drove upset with the fan base. And Diego Lainez is someone who I was surprised was left out, because eventually Tata went with Roberto Alvarado, who I think is nowhere near on the same level as Diego Lainez. Diego Lainez, he might not be a starter with Braga in the Portuguese league, but with the Mexican national team, whenever he gets subbed on, he's just someone who, you know, something's going to happen. You're going to get that one more chance, those couple more chances. He's just going to create something, and it's just going to keep you on the edge of your seat whenever he plays. Because his one-on-one skill, his dribbling, his take on is just like so good for such a young player. And for him to be left out too, I think Tata's going to regret that more than leaving out Santi Jimenez. Because
I got to be honest. I got to be honest, Leo, the last two, Santi Jimenez and Diego Lainez, when I saw that they were missing, I was also like, what is going on with that? That was so surprising. I think Diego Lainez has sliced and diced through the U.S. national team defense like more times than I care to count.
Yeah, it's like, James, you're not the only one that feels that. I mean, I'm not speaking for the whole Mexican fan base, but, you know, I read through the comments, I read through the tweets, I read through the posts. Everyone is so disappointed that Santi Jimenez and Diego Lainez wasn't there. And it's like, when Tata needed a goal or something like that, he cut off Diego Lainez. Diego Lainez wouldn't score the goal when he got onto the field, but he would create something, bring that energy you need. And just the fact that you're not taking him when you're playing against teams like Argentina, Poland, and Saudi Arabia, who might not be a bet to make it out the group, but they are a fast team. So it's, you know, you need that kind of player in your squad. And I just don't see another Diego Lainez on the team. It would have been Tecatito Corona, but he's not going to be there. So with all that being said, guys, we will be playing Argentina, who has, you know, arguably the greatest player of all time, or in the generation, or, you know, greatest player in just football in general, Messi. And this time around, I feel like Argentina is not only going to rely on Messi. I think they have a really good team this time around. Just,
La Scaloneta.
Exactly, man. Like, from the goalkeeping position to just all the way to the defenders, the midfielders, the forwards, they're just stacked, you know. And and I know they're one of the favorites to win the World Cup, and they should be, because they're coming in this tournament on fire. I think it's like, 34 games unbeaten, something like that. It's insane what they're doing right now, and I think it's just good for Argentina to know that they don't have to. They're not solely relying on Messi. Like, they know there's other players around who could deliver too. And in Poland, who might be the weakest European team entering this competition, but, you know, whenever you have an elite striker in Robert Lewandowski, you can never, ever doubt them out. And Saudi Arabia, and you know, I touched on this a little bit. They're not one of the best teams. They're not one of the most favorite teams to get out the group, but seeing them play in the last World Cup, although they didn't do good, they were a pretty fast team, and I feel like they could hit you on the counter. One thing that might harm them, though, is that, like, all their players only play in the Saudi Arabian league, so that might harm them a bit. But yeah, and for my other talking points I have here, I'm pretty sure you guys might have gotten this feeling already with me ranting all this, but this is the first time, because I started watching the World Cup in 2006, right? So this is the first time in, like, my life heading into a World Cup where I'm not feeling confident at all for Mexico. And it's crazy because 2010, right? That was such an exciting squad, because you had the veterans in Rafa Marquez and Cuauhtémoc Blanco and Gerardo Torrado, and you combine, you know, with that squad, they combined it with the youth of Giovanni Dos Santos, Carlos Vera, Chicharito. Like, that was such a good squad, because you're combining the present and the future in one squad. So that was an exciting squad. And then in 2014, you know, the year before that World Cup, Mexico didn't have the best World Cup qualifying. Shout out to Sanzusi for keeping Mexico in the 2014 World Cup.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, that squad still had a good team. You know, Memo Ochoa, you have a young Herrera, you have Rafa Marquez getting in there, Chicharito in his prime, Giovanni Dos Santos in his prime. You know, you just had good players all around. You had the Miguel Ayun in his prime. These are, like, really, really good players. and it was a good World Cup, And then 2018, which like I said, I barely started watching the World Cup in 2006. Not barely, but I've been watching since 2006, right? In my opinion, I think 2018 was the most talented squad that Mexico had. In 2018, they had you had Carlos Vela back, you had Chicharito, who was starting. Who was finally the starting number 9 for Mexico. You had a young Chucky Lozano. You had an experienced Hector Herrera and Andres Cuadrado. You had a coach in Juan Carlos Osorio who had a really, really good win percentage with this team. And this team was taking on, even before the World Cup, they were taking on teams like Belgium, taking on some other top teams in Africa and South America. And this team was doing good. And I thought they were very, very, an exciting team. Unfortunately, everything fell off in that Sweden game that literally no one in Mexico talks about. But it is what it is. But yeah, this is the first time where it's like, I don't feel too good about this team. Let's just see how it goes. And I guess
Leo, I gotta ask you, no quinto partido?
No, James. The curse will continue. Hopefully we learn our stuff after this. I mean, if it gets around 16, it's great, right? But no quinto partido. I think the curse continues. And for my outlook I have here, I think no matter what, Mexican fans who are at Qatar or watching it from Mexico or the US or wherever they're watching it from, they are still going to enjoy this moment. And I know I strongly feel that Tata Martino is going to leave after this World Cup. I feel like he sees this as like his last, not only his last World Cup with Mexico, but probably his last World Cup in general. I think when other national teams see what he's done with Mexico, he hasn't really gotten the right response from the fan base. And I'm not sure if any other national team would want to bring someone like that within their team. So I think that's why he's calling, all these veteran players, leaving out young players in Diego Lainez and Carlos Acevedo and Santi Jimenez, because he's just focused on, not taking any risk. Let me get the ones who've had experience. Let me get the ones who's been with me since I first took over. Which I think, obviously heading into a World Cup, you want to take risks. You want to take in players who've only started to heat up on form. I mean, look at the U.S. They're taking Haji Wright, who's heating up on form at the right time. And I just feel like Tata's going to regret leaving out some of the players that he did leave out. And with all that being said, if it is going to be his last World Cup, just get us out the group stage. Get us out the group stage and just, whatever happens there, it's whatever happens. And yeah, that's really all I have to say. Mexican fans are going to enjoy the moment still. And I just hope, for the best for the national team. I'll still keep on rooting them. I'll wear my fantastic white Mexico jersey that they're not even going to wear in the group stage. So they better make it out of the group stage so they can wear it. But yeah.
All right. Well, that will do it for our individual team previews here. Everyone, good job with your coverage, and we've got to move on to our predicts. We usually do these ahead of Rowdies games. Leo, you and I did them last year, and then Carlos and I did them this year. I currently hold the RBLR Rowdies Cup, although I will say Carlos joined, a couple months into the season, so it wasn't the best showing for me.
I had a slight disadvantage.
So hopefully I can take that wonderful form I appear to have been in and make some good predictions here. I would like to start us off with picking your own team's position in the group, and then we'll do who is going to be what is their final game? Is it going to be the last is it going to be the last in the group stage? Maybe they'll make it to the round of 16, maybe the quarterfinals. And then if we can move on after that, it'll be who will win it all and who will score the most. So, Carlos, you went first with your team preview. Let's just ask you, where do you think your team is going to end up in your group, and what will be their last game of the tournament?
I'm going to take Ecuador finishing in second in the group. I think we have a really, really good shot of making it out of the group, especially with Senegal's Sadio Mane not being in the tournament. So I'm going to take us in second in the group. I think we end up playing England in the round of 16 if England finishes atop of their group in Group B. And then I think I want to say we beat England in the round of 16, but I feel like that would if everything happens according to the odds, England would beat us in that round. But last time we made the round of 16, England knocked us out. It was the only time we ever made it out of the group stage. I want to say we'll get a little bit of revenge.
06?
Yeah. We lost to England back then off a David Beckham free kick. I think this. I'm gonna say that we get our revenge in this game and we lose in the quarterfinals to whoever we lose to. Super ambitious. I don't care. I'm putting it out there. I'm manifesting it into existence. So I'm gonna say we beat England in the round of 16, and then lose in the quarterfinals. Don't even
All right.
comment on that. Don't say it's unrealistic. I'm leaving that out there, and that's what's gonna happen.
Hey, that's what this is. That's what we're here for. We're here for predictions, whether they're wild or not. So I like that. I'm probably going to do something a little similar myself. So I'm going to turn it over to Ben instead, and see if he's got something a little more intelligent than what I'm going to go for, which might be maybe all fields.
Well, I really think the United States is poised for at least a quarterfinal run. I could see quarterfinals reasonably. I think they have the talent. I think it's going to shine. It's going to be a little bumpy at times, but I think the good is definitely going to outweigh the bad. And I think they're also going to finish atop of their group. I love that the way the English media really hypes up England so much, even though they're a good team, but they're not like a top 5 team like their media thinks they are sometimes. So I can't wait to see them not finish atop the group.
They got Phil Foden, my boy. Phil Foden's a baller. I may be saying that because I'm a Man City fan, but yeah,
we've got
English
Tim
bias
Ream.
for you.
We got Tim Ream. He's like 49 years old, and he's gonna crack him on the first 5 minutes of the game. So, the United States, they're going to the quarterfinals, maybe further. Who knows? And is that all I needed for my prediction there? I think that was it.
Yeah, for right now, that's all we're doing.
Cool.
We're going to do the next ones later. I was actually going to say, I think that if we can get ourselves out of the group, it should be relatively good moving on to the next stage. Not, it's not going to be easy. Nothing is going to be easy or given to you here. But I think that I'm predicting that the U.S. finishes second in the group behind England. And then I'm predicting that we play the Netherlands, who will finish first in Group A. And if we can get up against the Netherlands, that is not the worst team that we could get from all the group winners. I'm going to say that we can beat the Netherlands. I know obviously they have a very good team, but I'm actually going to go for a quarterfinals finish as well. So all right, Ben and I are somehow on the same page, and I think that means good things, right? It has to.
Oh yeah.
All right, well, good. We are all set, and USA to the quarters. Book it, and send in your bets right now, folks. But listen to Leo for your Mexico bets.
Yeah, I just want to say you guys are super confident on USA, and I do not blame you at all because I'm gonna be super confident with Mexico too. But so with Mexico for the group position, I think they're coming in second. I think there's without a doubt Argentina is coming in first place. It's going to be between Poland and Mexico for that second place. I think Mexico barely gets in. And then the partying stops there. I don't think they'll come against France in the round 16. Actually, I think they're coming up against Denmark. I think Denmark's going to surprise people this time around.
I also have Denmark winning.
Exactly. Yeah, I think France will come in second, especially with all the injuries they're facing right now and the off-the-field issues. So Mexico against Denmark, round 16. I think Mexico's going to score first, but Denmark's just going to be too much. And no quinto partido again for another World Cup. It is what it is. But you know what? I want to hear what you guys think of the other teams we've been covering. So, like Carlos, I want to hear what you think about, your predictions on Mexico and USA. James and Ben, I want to hear you guys on Ecuador and Mexico.
No, I have pretty high hopes for the U.S. as well, actually. I think Ecuador and the U.S. are very much kind of in a similar boat. I think back to 2019 during the U20 World Cup, where kind of this generation of insanely good talent for Ecuador was kind of revealed all at once when Ecuador made a run to a third place finish at the U20 World Cup with the current talent that makes up, a really, really big chunk of the national team currently. I think back to that tournament because Ecuador played the U.S. and a lot of the young talent on the U.S. national team now was also revealed to me during that tournament as well when they played each other. There's just so much good talent between both these teams and very much in similar positions where they have what they need to make a good run into the quarterfinals at least. So I'm going to agree with James and Ben that it's very much possible for that. But that
Go ahead,
being
tell me,
said,
break my heart with Mexico. Go
no,
ahead.
hold on, hold on, hold on. No. And that being said, with Ecuador and the U.S., if this World Cup doesn't pan out as great as we'd expect, as we'd hope it to, I think there's a serious case for next World Cup to be both Ecuador and the U.S.'s best shot at making their deepest run in a long time, given where the generation's at right now. And then with Mexico, I mean, I have Mexico making it out of the group and then losing to France in the round of 16.
Can't blame you on that one.
I think it's totally I think it's very reasonable that they make it out of the group. Poland is Poland. I mean, they have Lewandowski, and Argentina is Argentina. I think it's a very safe bet to go Argentina, Mexico, Poland, and I think it's safe for a reason. So that's what I'm going with there.
All right. That sounds good. James, Ben, what are y'all predictions on Ecuador and Mexico?
Well, I'll go. I'll tell you what I've been doing for my brackets. I've so far filled out 3, and all of them are different. But one thing that I do have, unfortunately for Carlos, I do have Senegal finishing second behind the Netherlands.
Boo!
And then Ecuador and Qatar.
Get out of
I know,
here, bro.
I know. I'm taking the wrong one there, but. I know that Sadio Mane is out, but all of the analysis that I've been listening to, which is a lot, I've been listening to way too many podcasts about the World Cup, but a lot of it has talked about how important it is to have a strong defense and making sure that is, shored up before the tournament. And according to all of the analyses of Senegal, they do play with a very stout defense, and their coach is Aliou Cisse, a former Senegalese player who was with them on their magical run in the 2002 World Cup. But his thing first is practicality and making sure that they're defensively sound. And especially, I imagine, with Sadio Mane out, that will be, an even bigger priority. But yeah, I had them. And then, Leo, I'm going to disappoint you even more, I think. But I had Poland finishing ahead of Mexico. And these are
why
bad
did I
choices.
come back, James? Why did I come back to this episode if you were going to say that?
Yeah, I know. I'm here only to play spoiler, I guess, for Ecuador and Mexico.
You already told me that you were going to say Mexico's going to make it out the group, and that's what brought me to come to this episode.
Eureka, come on, man. You went ahead and lied to Leo just to get him back on. I cannot believe this.
But no, I understand. I feel like it could go either way with Mexico.
I don't think that Poland is that good. I don't think they're that good, but it's so hard with Robert Lewandowski right now, and he's in such good form with Barcelona. So that's the way that I was looking at it. But I mean, hell, that game could also end up in a tie, and it just comes down to who puts the most goals past Saudi Arabia, for all I know.
Exactly, yeah. What's up, Ben? What's on your mind, Ben? You gonna break my heart like James? How we did to me and Carlos, or what's gonna happen? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I like Ecuador. I think honestly, like, they're young and they're inexperienced, but their young players have a lot of experiences, like plural, if that makes sense. Like they've been in a lot of situations in their clubs abroad. So I really think Ecuador even though they are a relatively young team, I think they do have, a little bit more, I guess, stoutness than I think. I think they'll be a lot less volatile as one of the younger teams. So I think they'll make it out of their group. I don't know a whole lot about them, like outside of, some of their quality young players, but so I don't really know how far they're going to get in the knockout stage, but I think they make it out of the group. And Mexico, I think they could make it out of the group. It really just depends, like, how much Lewandowski carries Poland. Like, it's really going to come down to that. So yeah, I mean, Mexico is pretty experienced, though. Like, they do have a bit of an older squad, and that is really, really important in international play. And, we can sit here and make predictions all we want and talk about players, but, like, at the end of the day, players that are in their late 20s, early 30s are typically much better than the guys in their early 20s. So, yeah, I think Mexico could get out of the group, but like I said, it kind of depends on what Lewandowski decides to do.
Okay, I approve. I didn't get annoyed with that take like I was doing, so I approve. I'm gonna just give this on the U.S. and Ecuador, then I'll give it back to you, James. But I think I actually have Ecuador making it out the group. Ever since I think Sadio Mane is a huge miss for Senegal, and I think it's a great opportunity for Ecuador to get out the group. I don't think Qatar is really going to pose any threat, even though they are the host. I think Ecuador will make it out. And for the U.S., I have them making out the group too. I think it's going to come close. I do think England's going to run away with that group. I think they're going to win all 3 games, but USA should do just enough to make it out the group in second place. But I will say the end of the road for them will be round 16 against a Netherlands team that has, they have a Van Dijk, a Memphis Depay, a Frankie de Jong, whereas the U.S., they do have really good, talented, and Ben said this earlier that, like, this is a really, really just naturally, really, really good, naturally talented team in the U.S., but at the end of the day, they're all their first World Cup. I think the only one that has World Cup experience is DeAndre Yedlin, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And I don't know if U.S. has the youngest squad or one of the youngest squads, but I think, it's going to be a good experience for them to help them for 2026. I just feel like Netherlands might pose a little too much, and I just give them round 16 as their last game.
I mean, I feel like that makes sense too. It wouldn't be shocking if the Netherlands beat USA. Let's be real about it.
But I think if the US makes it out, like it wouldn't be a bad World Cup if they get out the round 16. I think it'll be a successful World Cup to make it out that group, because it is a tough group. All those teams are in the top 20 FIFA ranking, so if they make it out, exactly. It's really good. It's a really good thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's going to be tough one way or another. So we have 2 more predictions to go, and then we'll do our extra time segment. Everybody, you can do this. You can do this quick fire, or you can explain it if you'd like. But who do you think is going to win the whole thing, and who is going to be the top goal scorer? Carlos, we're going to turn it over to you to start again.
Oh, I think I've been kind of back and forth on who's going to win it, but I think my final kind of reasonable answer to that question is Brazil. I feel like they are in a good place to do it. Obviously, they have the squad for it. I mean, that's not even really a question. It's Brazil. As for who the top goal scorer is going to be, like I have no idea. Really no idea. Like, I'm not even going to try and answer that because
you can't say Erling Haaland. He's not in this one.
Exactly. So I'm going to say Enner Valencia is going to be the top goal scorer.
There we go.
He's going to have 3 hat tricks in the group stage, 9 goals, and he won't even have to score any in the knockout stage. The top goal scorer. But yeah, I think.
Now, is that 3 hat tricks against Qatar?
9 goals against Qatar. That would be crazy, James. I would actually lose it if that happened. I think, yeah. No, I'm not sure about 9 goals against Qatar, but no. I apart from that, I think Enner Valencia does have a good scoring run, by the way. But Brazil is my clear favorite to win it all. I think a little while ago I would have said France has a chance to repeat, but I don't see it anymore. I think they could make a good run though. But a team that I'm excited to randomly see that I think could make a good run, maybe finally make their mark, would be Belgium. That's my dark horse for this tournament.
That's a good prediction.
Though. Yeah, it is our last dance, because the last time this golden generation will be together at a World Cup.
Exactly. Yeah, so I have them right now making it to the semifinals, but I could see them making a really, really crazy run. That's my dark horse.
Because Eden Hazard is not the same player he was 4 years ago. I mean, it just sucks.
Yeah. So Brazil as my winner, Enner Valencia as my top goal scorer. Finishes with 27 goals at the end of the tournament. Dark horse was not a prediction we needed, but that's my dark horse is Belgium.
No, we needed that.
I was gonna say let's include that. That will be the next one. All right, Ben, turn it over to you. Who's gonna win it? Who's gonna score the most? And your dark horse.
All right, who's gonna win it? Denmark. Who's gonna score the most? Memphis Depay. Dark horse. Let's go. The United States.
Ooh,
nice.
The Yanks.
Like Ben, you could have put Denmark as your winner, and
I was gonna say.
I don't think they're. I mean, I think they're underrated, but I really think they're such a quality team. Seeing what they did at the Euros, the most recent Euros, they're the real deal. And I don't know, anybody listening, go read Soccernomics. That's all I gotta say.
And they're having a healthy Christian Eriksen back too, so that's gonna do more damage to other teams.
Oh yeah, just they're under the hood numbers as a unit are fantastic. Based mostly on their qualifying stuff and the Euros, they're a really, really good squad. A lot of familiarity working together. Yeah, I'm really excited to see them. I'm very confident. And Memphis Depay, I think he's poised for something. He was always supposed to be like that next big thing, that next big winger, and I think he'll show out. I wanted to say Tim Weah as like the goal scoring champ of this World Cup, Golden Boot guy. He's someone that shows up in big games. He's done it at pretty much every level. So yeah, I'm just excited. Really, that's my biggest takeaway about this World Cup is I am so excited.
I agree with that. I'm happy to be able to watch the U.S. men's national team back at a World Cup. But all right, so I will give my pick to win it all, Argentina. Who will score the most? I'm guessing is Neymar. And I actually have as a dark horse Denmark. I have them topping their group over France. So
Nice.
I'm with you there, Ben. I don't think they go all the way necessarily. Maybe I think the last bracket that I did of the 3 so far was they lose to Belgium in the semifinal, and then Argentina beats Belgium in the final, if I'm not mistaken. But I still agree with you. They are obviously looking very good, and they know how to play as a team. Shout out to their coach, Casper Hjulmand, who went through the NCAA program.
It's more American greatness.
Exactly. All right, Leo, it's all on you now.
All right, I think this is kind of obvious. Mexico is gonna win it all. I'm telling you. Whatever I
Nice.
said, I did not mean that at all. No, okay, no. Mexico is not gonna win it. I actually have Brazil winning it, and I know it seems like every single World Cup, Brazil is always a favorite to win it, right? But I just feel like, I mean, you look at that team, and it's like, how can they not win it? You know, you got a Neymar who's in form, who seems to put all that critic noise just all behind him, out his ears. You have a Gabriel Jesus firing for Arsenal with Martinelli, and you have Rafinha balling out in Barca. And Anthony with Manchester United. They have so much talent all over that field, and they got to be the favorites. And to score the most goals, I would have said Cristiano Ronaldo if he would have not been ruled out for that first game, because I feel like he just always turns up when all the odds are against him. Even now with that weird-ass interview he did that got dropped not a couple of days ago, So to me, I'm gonna go with Karim Benzema, because the fact that he missed out on the last World Cup, this is gonna mean a lot to him. It might be his last one too. I just feel like him and Kylian Mbappe are gonna ball out. So I do have a Karim Benzema as the top goal scorer, and my dark horse, which I'm surprised none of y'all have mentioned, to me is gonna be Canada. I think Canada has a really great team. Alfonso Davies, is he's gonna ball out. Buchanan, who used to play with the Revolution, is now playing in Belgium, I believe. He's doing really, really good too. I just feel like, they are in a tough group with Morocco, Croatia, and Belgium, who I feel like every single team in that group has a good chance of making it out.
Even Morocco,
yeah, Morocco too. They're don't rule them out. They're a pretty stacked team as well. So I gotta go with Canada. I think they're gonna surprise a lot of people. They're definitely under the radar. I feel like no one's really keeping an eye on them, but just look out for them. They might surprise a couple people.
I feel like Canada are the 2022 version of Iceland from the last World Cup.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
it's just as cold too.
Exactly. It might be missing a couple volcanoes, but otherwise it's just about the same. Yeah. All right. Well, that'll wrap it up for our World Cup preview. Carlos, you and I have a couple of things to talk about in the extra time segment, which we'll do now. I just want to start off by saying Charleston Battery have come out swinging. They named their new coach. It was last year's coach of the year, Ben Perman, who took Memphis 901 all the way to a loss against the Rowdies, we'll say. But he has Lee Cohen in charge of him, and Lee Cohen calling all the shots on player signings. So I'm pretty sure those two are going to put together a good team, and that's going to be something we need to watch out for next year. Now, with the World Cup coming up, several teams are obviously playing friendlies to prepare. One team that is not going, but is still playing a game in preparation for the future is Cuba, and they called up Rowdies goalkeeper Raiko Arozarena, and I saw on Instagram, I still have not found the full team sheet. I'm desperately searching for that. If anybody listening finds it, let me know. But Raiko Arozarena did end up playing in that game. So I believe that was his first cap and his international debut. Congratulations to him. As someone who loves the international game, I am super psyched for him, and I would love to see Cuba and the Dominican Republic actually start to build up on their teams. They have, a lot of potential, and they also have a lot of players abroad who could play for them if they actually, were allowed to do so and chose to do so. I think that Cuba and the Dominican Republic both have a ways to go, and this is probably just a very good start. Really quickly, want to go over the San Antonio win in a little more depth. They won 3-1 over Louisville City, so take that, Louisville. Doesn't matter that you beat us. They were comfortable all the time throughout this game. They missed a penalty in the first 10 minutes and then still were able to go on and dominate. So, Louisville City, it was all for naught. I'm happy that you guys ended up losing. Just got to say it. Today, the Rowdies also opened a community mini pitch at their new training facility, so that was pretty cool. There is all sorts of coverage online, and you can see it on Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. But yeah, it's going to be specifically for the community, so everybody can use that while they have the training pitch themselves. And I think that I might stop by at some point. Carlos, I'm going to turn it over to you to get the last couple of bits here in our extra time.
For sure. And I personally will be visiting that mini pitch ASAP. It's literally 5 minutes from my house. Could not be more perfect. I'm very excited for that. Last couple of things. The Rowdies will also host Norwich City for a November training camp with an open training session on Black Friday. You can attend, but there is a World Cup game going on at that same time. So definitely
USA plays England. Just saying.
Correct.
Soccer versus football. Yes, sir.
Exactly. Yeah, winner gets naming rights to the sport for the next 10 years. How it goes. Fun fact, though, I literally didn't learn this until like a few months ago, which is crazy. I didn't know the term soccer originated in England.
Yeah, they made it up.
Yeah, I don't know
and
why.
they hate on us for it?
Exactly.
What?
Yeah. Anyway, whatever. That's random. That being said, last couple of big bits of news. Rowdies will be at Al Lang Stadium for the next 3 years. Very, very fun news coming out of the St. Pete City Council, who approved the lease. And we might be able to expect some improvements. So that's exciting because as much as I love the stadium, it is one of those old facilities that's a little bit run down.
Hopefully more seating. That'd be pretty cool.
Exactly. Yeah.
I wouldn't mind also an upgrade to the bathrooms personally.
For sure. Yeah. And I know part of that deal comes with a certain amount of money that the city puts aside just for maintenance and upkeep of the stadium that comes from the city itself. So that's really, really cool to see. Finally, last but not least, the USL Championship MVP was announced, and I think it was very, very, very correct in choosing Leo Fernandez as the MVP for the season. Highly, highly deserved.
Couldn't have been anyone else.
Exactly. There was not a player in the league that had as much importance to his squad as Leo Fernandez. So very much well deserved. And I think it goes without saying he deserved it more than anybody in the league.
Yeah, we probably should have done this ahead of time, but I'd love to know how many of Leo's goals were actually game-winning goals because he specifically, obviously, like you said, was so important to our team and the results we got. So it's a huge congratulations. It's a huge deserved award, and I am really happy for him. I just hope we obviously get to see him possibly do it again next year. So I think that will do it for us, Carlos and Ben and Leo. We have had a great time tonight covering the World Cup and making sure that everybody has everything they need for Ecuador, the U.S., and Mexico going in here. Thank you guys for joining.
Yeah, may I just say, I would not be surprised if all of our predictions are wrong because the World Cup is just like that.
Yeah, if every single thing that we said ends up being false, then I will just have to throw my hands up and say, well, I should have predicted something else. So, thank you guys for joining us. And Carlos, you are going to be off next week. What did you say you were doing again? Weren't you, I don't know. You were busy with something. I don't remember what it was. Probably not that important though, right?
No, not that important. I am got a last second opportunity, once in a lifetime type thing. Had to convince my professors to let me go through with it. But yeah, I'll be in Qatar for the next couple weeks. Thankfully, and just super blessed to be able to go to the Ecuador games during the group stage. It'll be a really, really great time. I'm so excited, like obviously as a soccer fan for that, and as an Ecuadorian and an American, to be able to be there for all these big games for both the Ecuador and the U.S. To be there like at the games for Ecuador is going to be really awesome. I think more than anything, though, this is something I've been talking about a lot with friends of mine and professors in my family. I think it's going to be such a great, like, I don't think I've ever been in a space like this where so many cultures kind of collapse onto one place at the same time. I think more than anything, that's what I'm really, really excited about, is to just meet so many people from around the world. I'll be working on a little project that I'll hope to put out into the internet verse. I'm going to try and talk to one person from every country represented and kind of let them tell their story about why they're there. That'll be something to keep on my radar. Just excited to be there. And honestly, it could not have been more last second, but yeah, I can't express how excited I am over in words over a podcast, honestly.
Yeah, I was just, I mean, I'm not going, but I was bouncing off the walls when you told me that. And as Eureka said before we started recording, we got some Qatar BLR in the works here. So everyone look forward to that. We have on-site coverage from RBLR Sports at the World Cup in the form of Carlos Rueda. And yeah, man, I'm so excited for you. That's going to be awesome.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it'll be a good time. It'll be a good time.
All right, everyone. Now that we are through everything, including Carlos's awesome trip, I'm going to go ahead and say thank you, listeners, for tuning in. Please follow RBLR Sports on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And you can also get us with the hashtag AskRBLR. Everyone, if you could go around and say where people can get at you on Twitter. I am at RBLR James K, but maybe you'll want to follow one of these other guys here too.
Yeah, drop the follow at Carlos TPA10 on Twitter. My timeline has been exclusively about the Ecuadorian national team for the past week. So much good content coming out from the national team Twitter and from the clubs where our players battle. So tons of great stuff I've been retweeting. So don't expect any content from me. I cannot just help but retweet everything I see about the national team.
Yeah, and you could follow me. It's at I'm Leo Santos __. It might be one underscore at this point. I don't even know how many times I changed it and if it was available. So just try both of them and see which one works. And yeah, go hit that follow button if you will.
Yeah, and I'm at DogPancake73 on Twitter. Lots of baseball stuff, some soccer, mostly baseball. I also do a little bit of work with this Tampa Bay sports group, RBLR Sports. So follow them at RBLR Sports. Yeah, just do that, I guess.
That's got to be the best Twitter handle I've ever heard, Ben.
RBLR Sport. Oh, the dog pig. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
it just click for me. Yeah, it's an old gamer tag. So it was a good gamer tag too. It's an even better Twitter handle now.
I agree.
I love that.
And everyone listening, please, if you have not already, like and subscribe to our podcast. We're on Spotify, the iHeartRadio app. We are on Apple and Google Podcasts. We are on YouTube and all other major podcast platforms. Now, usually after a World Cup preview, I would say go USA, but I don't want to discriminate against the Ecuadorian and Mexican fans here, so I will also go ahead and say this time, come on, you Rowdies.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.